don't need to be the best from the beginning. You don't need everyone. You just have to start. You must just start. Just do it. And if you do it good, you will find people who will do it together with you.
Hi, Marc. Good to have you here.
Hello, Jonathan. Good to be here with you.
After so long. Yeah. We didn't see each other for a long time.
How long was that?
Almost an hour.
I mean, the last 2 days were quite busy, which has been the plan. So it's not a surprise. We have the program. If you see the program, it was quite a lot. And I remember doing a similar interview, I think 4 years ago. And I just said, we heard some critics about Stadt Nach Acht. It's so much, it's too much. I don't know where to go at the same time. And my answer was, yes, that's the idea. Overwhelm you. The world is like a big honeypot.
Quite good at it. Quite good at it.
Thank you.
So where did you start? Where did all this start? Like, you have a very long career in the field.
Yeah. So, I always start where I come from. So I'm born in West Berlin, and I was 17 when the wall came down. And I think from my family, we are all night owls. So there's this theory of people who are more with the early morning birds and the night birds. And I definitely belong to the night birds. And if I go back to the last generations, I always hear about persons in my family, even decades ago, died long time ago before I was born. They're all working at night. So I'm awake at night. It was genetic, I suppose. So I love to be at night, and I started to go out quite early, and then the wall came down in a time when I was going out at that time. I even came from a club that night when I got to know the wall came down. And that's a very well-known legend and myth, all that what happened with a crazy alternative inspired Berlin in old rotten houses, creativity took over Berlin, and I became a part of that. Not as someone who was running a club. Maybe I was a step too young for that, but as someone who went there. And at the same time, everyone knows that as well, a little bit interested. Electronic music came from UK, Berlin techno parties. Some of them, I visited the first one in UFO before the wall came down. And then it made boom, Tresor and all that. And so I became part of that, and I loved it. And I spent a lot of time in clubs. And at a certain point, I had a really extensive knowledge about places in Berlin. Many of them illegal, and you had to know people who knew people where to go. And I had a lot of flyers, paperwork, and people asked me a lot where to go because I knew a lot. And I had the idea with some friends to make a magazine out of that. So to put all this content in a new kind of city magazine, urban nightlife magazine, because the magazines at that time in Berlin were still like rock and roll. They were writing about concerts and alternative bands, which is cool, okay. This electronic music movement, the journalists, the nightlife journalists, concert journalists, they were music journalists on rock and roll bands. They knew nothing about this electronic movement. And so we did our own magazine, a club culture magazine. Flyer was the name. I did that for 10 years. And out of that time, I met a lot of club owners, people who were running all kinds of places. And that was the basis that in the end of the 90s, when we all together became aware that more and more clubs had been closed by local governments. Berlin has 12 districts, and in every district, the real power of decision is not the country of Berlin and the parliament of Berlin, but it's the district, what we have 12. So on the district level, they were closing clubs. On the Berlin level, they have been doing marketing with us, telling how cool the new Berlin is, doing poster campaigns in Berlin and outside from Berlin. Come to the new Berlin, it's so creative. But in reality, they were closing clubs. And we said, that's not okay. You're doing marketing with us, but on the other hand, you're closing clubs. There's something missing. And we became aware that we have to do something. And we got an advice by interestingly conservative senator for economy, who were the first one to meet us, telling us, I think you're important. I like what you do. I see a lot of young people coming to Berlin. I don't listen to your music. I don't go to your clubs, but I think you're part of the new Berlin. But I tell you one, you cannot come each by each with the same problems. It's not working. I have not enough time. You have to organize yourself. And that was the birth moment of Clubcommission, which today, if you're a little bit into Berlin club life, is quite powerful and very good networking club, lobby, and networking institute. We just started with 16 members. Today we have more than 300, but we're just 16. And I'm telling that always because you don't need to be the best from the beginning. You don't need everyone. You just have to start. You must just start. Just do it. And if you do it good, you will find people who will do it together with you.
And this was 23 years ago.
It was 1789, starting my company in 1994. So I was 23. Running my company 10 years. The magazine had to close it. Not easy time. So all this crisis stuff from 2009 and later, I experienced all that in 2002, 3, 4, when, first .com bubble bursted. And I knew that feeling when money disappears and you don't find new money. So I had to stop that in 2003. But it were intensive 10 years. And Clubcommission had been started in 1999, 2000, still existing today.
That's impressive. And today we are Stadt Nach Acht.
Yeah. At a certain time, we have spent, I would say, nearly 10 years as a voluntary organization. And they had very little money. We had enough money that we could pay a little office. We could pay 1.5 persons, mostly out of membership fees. And we sometimes made parties. We had the kind of European club night where we got one of the first fundings, I think from an EU fund, not Berlin or Germany, it was an EU fund. They're doing the European club night. But mostly it was done voluntary. I think we have spent, tens of thousands of hours voluntary to build that up. Just did it during our normal work. And around 2010, we became aware that not all problems can be solved on the state level of Berlin or state level of Hamburg or state level of, Bavaria. The structure, the political structure of Germany, you have to understand, we have the communal district level. In Berlin, it's called Bezirk. We have a kind of state level. That's the government of Berlin and the parliament of Berlin. Berlin is a state. It's a city, but also a state like Paris. And then you have the national level, which is the federal government of Germany. Other states are not only a city. For example, if you go to North Rhine-Westphalia, it's much, much, much bigger than Berlin. There's 16 million inhabitants. They have Düsseldorf as their main capital. But it's a huge state with 16 million people living in that. So Berlin has the advantage. The state by itself is also the city. But we have federal laws, for example, building laws or laws in noise emission control, which come from federal law. So even if you change something in our hometown here in Berlin, you change nothing in Germany. And finally, you also don't change it in Berlin because the administrations take the basis on how they execute the rules from the federal law. So you have to change the federal law. And everyone living in Berlin maybe thinks Berlin is the coolest city of the world and it's so powerful, but finally it's it's only a city in Germany. Even it's the biggest cities, but in our national parliaments, the parliamentarians from Berlin are not so many. A huge amount of people coming from North Rhine-Westphalia, Hessen, Bavaria, they send amounts of parliamentarians, and you have all to convince, not maybe all 16, but a lot of these countries as well, to change federal laws. So we started to set up a national club commission, which is called Livekomm, which is the national club and music venue and festival organization. And by site some smaller states like Thüringen, Saarland, Sachsen-Anhalt. I think we have nearly in all states now a national state organization. We formed the federal national organization, Livekomm, and we have about 700 members all over Germany now in the moment. Berlin is the biggest one with around 300. But very important is, even if you come from Passau or, a small village like Görlitz, a small city, it's not a village, a small city like Görlitz in Saxon or Cottbus, they have a club commission, I think, with 10 or 12 members. They have a voice in the board if they have someone sent from Brandenburg, for example, like Berlin, even if we have 300 members. So that's very important that we keep the balance. That makes it also interesting because everything what's maybe cool for the people in Berlin, you cannot execute so easy everywhere in Germany because they have a different kind of nightlife. You cannot go so quick. If you would do that, you would overwhelm the people living in that cities. You would overwhelm their parliaments. They would block you. So you have to find compromises and smaller steps.
Why would they block these people?
I remember, the smallest country in Germany, smallest state in Germany is Bremen, the city of Bremen. And they have a government which is a coalition from Social Democrats, Greens, and Die Linke, the lefts. And so it's obviously a more left coalition. We have also, therefore, the Clubverstärker, which is a local club commission of Bremen. And the head of this organization, which woman told me, it's great what you have for awareness, ideas and things you try to do in Berlin. But if we would do that with that speed in Bremen, it would not work. The people are not ready yet. We have to bring it to them step by step. And this is always important to remind people from Berlin that you have to see it from the country, from the whole country.
Yeah, Berlin is a bubble.
Berlin is even the people living here in the inside of the S-Bahn ring. The people live in Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, Neukölln, Lichtenberg, and think it's it's the hotspot and maybe everything in the world. The bubble of only these 3-4 districts in Berlin. Even what's behind that in Berlin it becomes maybe more complicated for them. But thinking in a national level is even something different.
I see. But like right now, you're focusing also on the German side with going to Augsburg next year.
Yes. Out of this national organization, today is the organization which is doing Stadt Nach Acht. That's our lobby and information and scientific nightlife conference. I showed you Stadt Nach Acht, which means city after 8. We're doing that since 2016. We have started it with Club Commission here in Berlin. But after the second year, we became aware that it was really attractive for many others coming from other German cities and even from European cities. So my partner Raimund and me, who started it in 2016, thinking about that in 2015, and Club Commission, we both have been working there. We had the idea, why not to shift everything from the Berlin level as organizing the conference to the Livekomm, to the national level, asking our Berlin Senate, who is mostly and very good with power supporting Stadt Nach Acht, would it be okay for you if it's not a Berlin structure, but the national structure, which is based in Hamburg, if we do this funding money, the Stadt Nach Acht, of course, continuing in Berlin, but it would be the national organization. And the answer was, well, why not? That's cool. That's great. We would be build it up at the main conference for Germany, use our money. Of course, we want to have spent the money in Berlin. We should not give away, that you do the conference with the Berlin money in Hamburg or wherever. But if you do the conference in Berlin and if you support the Berlin culture and economy, great, go with that. So here we are. And I think we have set up maybe the biggest nightlife conference in that case in Europe. And as you see, our list from where the people are coming, I was sitting today with two obviously really underground young girls piercings, tattoos. And I was asking, where do you come from? From Augsburg? What do you do? I had the idea maybe they're expats living in Berlin. And they said, no, we come from Gothenburg, from Sweden. I said, okay, well, on what panel are you? No panel. We got to know you are here, and we bought tickets and came to Berlin, to Stadt Nach Acht. I said, yeah, that's was the dream we want to go to.
That's amazing. And you have also like many speakers coming all around the world. I had the chance like to have one of them, Steven Raspa. How do you manage all these relationships with all these people over the years and like to keep making them coming?
I think the most important is we have a really nice, really good and experienced and open-minded team of curators. So they are around, they are taking care for the networks they have. They try to stay open-minded, even we become older year by year. And we try to introduce, to get into the circle of thinking about it, younger people. And I mean, we met people, I don't know from where the recommendation for Steven Raspa came once. I mean, he's coming now, I think, the third time to Stadt Nach Acht because he's really a symbol for a very special festival. He's promoting it and describing it in a very good way. And he looks also behind the curtain. Let me say, he's not only talking about the art and the music, but he can talk about the security, the regulation, the sustainability, all the things what are beyond of the platform of doing art, but running something where thousands or 10,000s of people are coming, talking about the toilets, talking about rain, talking about getting away if you have a problem, evacuation plans, all that what you have to plan as well. So it's a very interesting partner, and it's great always to have him here because he's a good example. This year we had a panel on security, planning and self-responsibility, how much self-responsibility you can expect from your visitors if you do large-scale events in an open area, not in football stadiums, which are built for that masses, but outside, in a desert, like Burning Man, inside streets of an old heritage city, like in Ghent. Love Parade, Rave the Planet, from the Love Parade founder, Dr. Motte, who's doing that in the streets of Berlin as an open, free event. So how will you do that? And Steven Raspa is really someone who has intensive knowledge how they have set up Burning Man and doing that and this extraordinary surrounding. I've never been there, so once I hope I can visit that festival.
Yeah, not yet, I wanted to say. And how do you work with the new generation? Like, this is why we're standing here. Thank you for trusting us with this and getting me in the team years ago. Yeah,
I mean, mostly it's important to get to know each other. Emailing is one thing, looking podcasts other things, or seeing original. But I mean, I like meeting people. I like to talk with them personal. So I hope that staying open, driving around, meeting our networks, going to new and old places, listening to recommendations, we can meet some right new persons from all sexes and different backgrounds that we can listen. What are your plannings? How do you see the world? One step, for example, that we work for our third day at Stadt Nach Acht with Karina and Barto and their team for the curation of the Rise Up Day. And it's a little bit my own free day. So I even don't know everything what's happening here. I'm coming to a part of our conference supporting their Rise Up Day just to see what is their idea on nightlife.
And how is it going so far?
I just came from my first panel. Was a little bit mixed panel because it was the political panel, of course, which has strong roots in the main Stadt Nach Acht. So I was supporting the Clubcommission people there. And I just had a moment where it's not so late now. We still have many hours before us here at the afternoon now. And I saw every room seems to be more or less crowded. So I think people are here, people like the program. And I'm very happy to see that Karina and Barto, I think, have a good sense and vibe to set up their topics.
That's good. And what's next?
Working in Livekomm, our national organization, as I explained, we bring together smaller cities and bigger cities, countryside and urban areas, and different states from Germany. We are very happy that we can go next year with Stadt Nach Acht to Augsburg. That's the plan. Augsburg is a very well-known old medieval. It was a very, very rich city 500 years ago. The richest man on earth, maybe by sight people from China, maybe some, but the Fugger, they were based in that city. You see that it's an old heritage city, even it has also some destructions in the war, but you still see that it was a very, very rich and important city. So they have a really old heritage. There are 300,000 people, and they have a really interesting and cool way how they work together. They have a club commission with members from Nightlife. They have a very modern thinking administration. That is very interesting. Combining work and pop culture, art, urban development, culture, working together with the heritage people, doing that in such a city, with the backing from their politics. And we will go with Stadt Nach Acht, with the topics, what we do, to Augsburg. To understand Stadt Nach Acht, we have created a structure where we get our topics and ideas. We say it's the culture of the night, it's the health and the safety, which means something like safer nightlife, harm reduction. Then the night economy, because it's definitely also a business, especially if it's privately run. And it's the urban development. If we don't have the places, then we don't have the club culture. We cannot transform everything into the internet and to the web. It must be real, sweating people and real places. So you need the right to do it. You need the places, indoor, outdoor. So urban development, and then sound emission issues on that, regulations on that, working with the police. So these 4 pillars: culture of the night, health and safety, urban development, and night economy. Out of that, we take our topics, and that will be again in Augsburg in Bavaria, which is very interesting because Bavaria is quite restrictive state in Germany on harm reduction law and rules. Coming with our Berlin ideas, that will be interesting. Of course, that's what I said. You cannot transform and bring everything on that level. You have to do it step by step. But of course, we would like to start that discussion. And they do a super job working together in the city. For me, it's a really good example to show to other cities what you can do for your city when everyone is working together. I haven't seen that in Berlin by the way they do it in Augsburg.
Well, Berlin has a bigger history about that, and I can imagine they're very inspired about all that, and it's great that we do have the chance to work with them from that next year. What is the conference happening?
I have to say 24th to 25th of October to 2024. And it will have a similar size about like we did last year in Dortmund. So that means it's not the size of Berlin, but it has quite a size. And the Livekomm at the National Club and Venue Organization will support it heavily. We will work very strongly with the Bavarian Club and Venue Organization. And then, of course, we work with the Augsburg Clubcommission. You see, we have all levels. And we start around February with our curation, thinking about the topics. And, of course, one topic... makes sense to talk about that. How is it in nightlife in, let me call it, mid-scale cities between 150,000 to 600,000? And we have a lot of these cities in Germany, even Europe. So we're not talking only about nightlife only in cities which have millions.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for your time, Marc.
I hear the bass. Do you hear it?
Time to go.
Yeah.